ready for me to spill the tea on what's going on our upcoming episode of Real Reading Talk? That's right, y'all. Figurative language, okay? So I got our in house educator, Miss Ebony Donley, who is going to be showing us the examples of figurative language. This is the episode that you do not want to miss. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Reading Talk. And I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And with Real Reading Talk, I discuss the real systemic issues that are at the very core, the very foundation as to why we have these high levels of illiteracy in the Black community and the ways in which we can combat these issues together, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. Community. So here we go, y'all. Part deux, okay? Part two. Y'all know I speak a little French, all right? Anyway, of our segment of doing that deep dive into reading. Okay, so the first one, Ebony and I. So of course I'm gonna introduce her again. Y'all know she's a regular up in here on Real Reading Talk, right? And so the first one, we were talking about what was it? The character description just slipped my mind.
We did character traits.
Character traits. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why I needed her to help.
So we did like a character sketch using character traits.
Exactly. So we did that, and this is the book that we've been using. Okay. So we're using The Skin I'm In. All right. Phenomenal book. Please make sure that if you haven't read it, please make sure that you grab that book. Okay. Got this copy from the library, y'all. All right. By Sharon G. Flake. Okay. So, but this segment, we are going to be talking about figurative language. And the reason why, again, that we chose to focus on these is because in having conversation with Ebony, we talked about how these are some of the skills that a lot of our students, our children, are missing when it comes to them becoming the great readers that they can become. They need to be able to understand how to describe a character's traits, right? Do a character sketch, being able to talk about those different things when they're reading a book or reading a passage. They need to understand what figurative language is. And so what I'm going to do now, this is my time to pass the ball to our educator, our in-house educator, a regular here at Real Reading Talk, Ms. Ebony Donley. Come on, girl.
So thank you for having me again. And so today we're going to talk about figurative language, which we know is not meant to be taken literally. But what I'm finding is some of the statements that are used in some of our novels now, our kids are not used to. Like when it's saying like something like once in a blue moon, that's not a phrase that's used all the time anymore. Like we were used to hearing it when we were growing up, but it may be something that they're not used to hearing. So sometimes kids are reading and they're like, what? What does that mean? Or that doesn't make any sense. And so we have to make sure that they understand, and you don't want to lead them, but you want them to understand like, hey, you know, it's the mood is not going to turn blue out here.
Right.
So it's like things like that. So figurative language, you shouldn't take it literally, but we know that it makes your writing more colorful, more descriptive. So what I've done, and I'm going to show this when I'm going to say, so I took the definition of figurative language. It just says words or expressions with meaning other than literal. And I actually got that from the ODE website and their glossary. I was like, what did they define it as? And so that's exactly what it says.
Right.
And so what I'm going to speak to today, simile, metaphor, and idioms, those are some of the common ones. But then, of course, we have hyperbole, which is one of my favorite one. I'm always talking in exaggerations because I'm dramatic like that. So the glossary for the Ohio Department of Education said a simile is a comparison between two distinctly different things indicated by the word like or as. And so the example that they gave was quiet as a mouse. And so for metaphor, it says a type of comparison in which a word or expression's literal usage and meaning is applied to a distinctly different thing. Notice they keep saying distinctly different.
Okay.
That's in the definition for metaphor as well. And it says all the world stage. And then they gave the credit to Shakespeare. because that's where they got that quote from. And then idiom, phrases or expressions that have meanings different from the literal. And it says the kids clean their rooms once in a blue moon. That was the example that the state gave. And so I was thinking, maybe if we start using the exact verbiage from the state to show our kids what it is, and then maybe that will be a little more helpful. Like when we're even our kids at home, I'm not always talking about in school, because sometimes we can say something at home that can make a greater impact than what somebody says at school.
Yes.
And so the skin I'm in is full of figurative language. We had all kind of stuff. So I picked out some of my favorite ones. I like the one where she said she had on enough lip gloss to shine the car. I think it was after she got her hair cut.
Okay.
She said she had on enough lip gloss to shine the car. And there was another one when she said that her hair was so nappy she needed a rake to comb it.
See that? I'm like, you know
that
what?
was another one. And she slaps me with those mean words of hers. I sat there with a frozen smile like that stupid Mona Lisa. And then when the teacher told her, your skin is pretty like a blue-black sky. And remember, I think her teacher told her she got it out of a poem, but it related to her, to her skin. So now I want to show my artwork because, you got a little crafty sometimes.
That's the big part of this. That's
yes.
Keep it right here for a minute. Yes. Show. That.
Yes. So I just did this. Yeah. I just said figurative language and put the definition here. And then, me, I got to be a little extra with it. So then I put simile, metaphor, and idiom at the bottom with the definition that I got from the state. And then just because I like it, I just put onomatopoeia, other figurative language, alliteration, personification, irony, pun, hyperbole. That was just a little background. So they can be like, what's that? Because like when I displayed it to my classroom, they're going to be like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, that's when you do this.
And so, you don't have to say that right on here for all.
Right. Just thinking a little extra. So we know that onomatopoeia is when it makes a sound, crash, boom, bang.
Yep.
Alliteration, that's when it has all the same letter sounds. Oxymorons, when you say something big, little.
Right. Right.
It doesn't go together. Yep. Hyperbole is an exaggeration. Personification, when you giving human qualities to non-living things. And then irony, when it just doesn't seem like it should go together, but it does somehow. You like, wow. That shouldn't. And then, a good old pun like wordplay. And, we do that a lot, but sometimes we should point it out to our students when we are doing it, and just the kids in our families, so that they can understand things like that. Like, it doesn't have to be complex. Now, this didn't take me very long because I knew we were doing this. And so it was like almost like I was anticipating. I said figurative language was one of the, and I'm like, oh, yep, there, I got one. Okay, here's another one. Here's another one, because I was already anticipating, okay, I'm going to do an exercise on figurative language.
Yes.
And so then I was like, but how do I want to organize it? Because at first I thought to organize and put all the metaphors here, the similes here. I said, no, I just make one broad thing. So because when we're reading, it's woven in. It's strategically woven in. Page by page, paragraph by paragraph, sometimes sentence by sentence, depending upon how rich the author's writing is. And so I wanted to do that, and I want to tell you, nothing fancy. Remember on the first one when I used that potato chip box, this is the other piece. This is just the other piece of the box.
Y'all see that?
This is the other piece of the box, and this is just construction. This is just construction paper. All I did was tape it on here. Nothing special. Even this is just construction paper. I took a candle. I had a candle here.
Okay.
And I just took the top. I just took the lid.
Oh.
Traced the circle. Come on. That's where my circles came from. Like nothing extravagant, like no compass over here. I just traced that, cut it out, glue stick, and just regular markers. So it doesn't have to be a costly activity. And
Yeah.
that's what I need people to understand. It doesn't have to be costly. Nobody is saying go out and buy all of this great stuff. I'm saying use what you have already, but make it fun. The whole family can read a book and
Mm,
everybody can pull something different out.
love that.
You know, we can, because you even have it in little storybooks. Like, even like, I didn't realize one of my books failed, but like Stella Keeps the Sun Up. Like all of this kind of stuff, they have stuff like that in there. Like they have this figurative language. And to be honest, picture books are rich with it.
Yes.
Picture books, you know, because they're kind of designed for kids to read, you know, parents to read to their children. And
Mhm.
so it's full of rich vocabulary that we can do things with. It's rich with figurative language and all of that. So this is what I have. Figurative language is one of my favorite things to talk about though, because without it, everything will be boring.
Okay.
Who wants to read a book and you don't have any comparison? Because it's like I love to read it because then I'm envisioning, and even the reaction. I'm like, oh, they said that. Oh, what about, you know? And it's like I can just envision, and I start to envision what the characters look like
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
all of that. So that's what I have. Did you have something for us?
Yes, I do. I am going to show it, and then after that, what I just thought about something. You gave me a great idea, because when you talked about how we don't say things like once in a blue moon, right? Usually don't hear that. And especially you don't hear that, I would say more so in the younger generation. And that's the thing. I was having a discussion with my son, with Yusuf, because I actually told him, I showed him, I sent him a picture actually of yours, your figurative language project. By the way, it's dope. Mine is real plain Jane. When y'all see mine, I just giving y'all a heads up. Okay, art being artistic is not my strong point. All right. However, I sent it to Yusuf. Yusuf actually, that is his strong point. He's extremely artistic. And so, and we were talking about in terms of how the figurative language, like how certain things that can be said, but a lot of it is cultural as well. For example, spill the tea. Okay. That is something that we hear a lot of our, kids, we hear a lot of young folks saying that. Does that literally mean spill the tea? That's a what? Spill the tea is considered that'd be an idiom, right? Spill
Yes,
the tea.
because you're not going around spilling tea.
Thank you. Exactly. But that's a great way though, again, to make that connection with the kids, letting them know like you're using idioms. You're using this figurative language. You just might not be thinking about, oh, I just use an idiom. I just use a metaphor. I just use a simile. But if we're making that connection and pointing it out to them, like that's what makes our conversations, like you pointed out, colorful, rich, descriptive. You're not just hearing things just in a straightforward way. So I just wanted to speak to that. And I was just thinking about that'd be great for us to just even, just like I know with you being with the kids, being an educator, just bringing those examples of having them even maybe do a project, thinking about, okay, so what are some different idioms or whatever figurative language that you are using that y'all may be talking about, just amongst your friends, and then you can be like, okay, well, this goes in that category. That's an idiom, or that's personification, or that's hyperbole, right? So here we go. So mine, I did. So what I did was, and don't be laughing, y'all. I told y'all I ain't artistic. Okay, this is all I did. I put the word figurative language, then I put the definition. Bam. And I just got some regular old printed, colorful copy paper that I have in my house, and I just wrote the definition down. And so, again, Ebony, she already explained thoroughly, simplistically, of what figurative language means. And so I just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do. So the metaphor that I used from the book, again, as we know, that's that non-literal comparison, right, between two unlike things. The example that I used was my mom has a heart of gold. And then I used the example, of course, using the book, The Skin I'm In. Miss Saunders is getting all spacey on us. That was on page 19. Okay. All right. So basically saying what? That she was just kind of like kind of going into another world when she was talking about something. All right. So that's what that means, getting all spacey. Then the next one I did was when I did the simile. Okay. So at the top, put the definition of the simile. Then I put the examples that I saw when I Googled it. Brave as a lion. So there's the word as in there, right? Making that connection. And then crazy like a fox, right? So I use both so they can see there's as and there's like. The example I used from the book, page 11, hairballs as big as basketballs. Okay, so that I think that was when Malika when she was talking about was it Shar
Yeah, man. They
talking about the hair up on the,
mm-hmm.
on the hair.
I was gonna use that one at first.
Was you?
Yes.
I was like, Lord, I said, oh my God. And so then here go the last one. I use, of course, idiom. Let's see. So the example was a bull in a china shop. Okay, so that was actually used on page 36. And so, and basically, and I wanted to look it up. I've heard that before, but I wanted to look it up just to make sure that I was explaining it correctly. And so, so that actually idiom is something that has been used a lot, like back in the day. A person who's like a bull in a china shop is somebody who they like constantly breaking things, or they make mistakes often in like careful situations. Okay, so you imagine like a bull. Okay, a bull wouldn't be, big old animal in a china shop, a place where you got all kind of delicate things, right? So that's what that description was of Miss Saunders. I think that was one of the teachers was talking about her, because they was pretty much hating on Miss Saunders. Okay, they didn't like the fact she was thinking outside the box. She was coming in there trying to, have the kids be exposed to different cultural experiences, trying to bring out the best of them in very creative ways. And when you got folks who, when they don't like to challenge the status quo, they kind of get mad at you. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what they were doing, Miss Saunders. So that's why I chose that idiom. And I said, wow, man, I was just feeling, I love this assignment. I really do. How was your, well, you already explained how you really love figurative language, but give us some more, your feeling about this particular thing that we did together.
I really enjoyed doing this, because sometimes, like, as a teacher, I'm not always the one doing it. But that bull in a china shop, believe it or not, I had not heard that one. My mother's from Mississippi, my father's from Georgia. I didn't heard some stuff, but that bull in a china shop, I had not heard. And so I just took it to me, oh, it has to be like out of place.
Right.
Because basically when they were talking about Miss Saunders, they're basically saying she doesn't adhere to the culture around here. She's coming in here, she's doing all of this other stuff. So that's when context comes in.
Yes.
Because even to have not heard that before, just the context of what's going on helped me figure it out. And then that's another thing I'm telling students also, you're not always going to understand everything, but use what's around it to make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, figurative language just makes writing colorful.
Yep.
But I think that some of our students, and even just the kids in our family, they've gotten used to, preparing for a test or something like that. They've forgotten how to be creative.
Yeah, right.
They've forgotten how to think outside of the box. And I think it's up to us to kind of bring that back. I gave an assignment at the beginning of the year. I said, introduce yourself.
Okay.
And I said they could do a TikTok, they can do a reel, they can do Instagram, they can do a poster. I told them they can do it any type of way. They can make a YouTube video. Excuse me. I end up doing, so I took in a report in the box. So I took one of my old shoe boxes, colored it with construction paper, put some of my things in. Yes. I went in there. I had my diploma. I said, I graduated from Collinwood High School in 1996. I pulled out my diploma. Then I went to Baldwin Wallace College and I had a chip clip and it said BW. And I said, it has a B on it because we're the Yellow Jackets, so on and so forth. Then I had my camera. I said, I have my camera. It's blue because blue is my favorite color. I love taking pictures, but not necessarily on my phone. So I went like that. So I'm showing all of this stuff. And then I had a piece of paper. I said, this came from the United States trademark and whatever it's called, trademark, whatever. I said, because I have a trademark on my company, on my tagline, where academics flourish. And then I had a button. I said, this is, says literacy innovations because this is the name of my company, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I had set a pretty good example. I had other stuff in the box, went through everyone, closed the box. And then in the box, it just had on the top of the box, it had my name and my birth date.
Mm-hmm.
Another teacher came in. She had lived in Japan for like 30 years. She did a PowerPoint. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get something like that. The majority of the students that did the project, they all did a poster board. I had one student, because they felt like it was just easier, even though I gave you all of these parameters to be creativity, like let yourself shine through. I had one student did a YouTube video. One. Most of the students did, like I said, poster boards, and a few of them just came in with like a bag full of stuff that represented them. But that was their time to shine, like be expressive. And so they're not always up for the task anymore. Like for us, I think in our generation, we would have been like, oh, what, we come with whatever, but they didn't do that. And I think sometimes we just have to, it's okay because I said you can rap, you can do a song, you can do a little dance. I said make it your own, like make us know who you are. Oh, and I had my iPad. I was like, this is my iPad, because if you know me, I'm constantly reading on this thing. I carry it instead of hard books because I always have at least 15 books on my iPad at all times. So I said I have the Libby app, the Hoopla app, and I said, and I have iBooks, but that really speaks to who I am as a person. And I was telling them, like, but they don't, it's like that creativity piece or like that project-based learning. It's just like, they just like, give me a worksheet. Like, and so I'm telling them, like there's other ways, like collaborate with your partners, come up with something good. It doesn't always have to be do this and then there's a test. It's like, do this, we can do another activity, because when kids are allowed to be creative, sometimes we get way more than what we ask for, and we can really see what they know. But it's almost like they're just like, no, I'm fine, we're going to do what we're used to. And so that's why I like things like what we're doing, because it'll be like, look, I even did this and I did this. And so then it's like, oh, you still do that? You still like that? Because you have to think. Sometimes when they're getting older, they think that's babyish.
Come on.
You cutting, coloring, and pasting. Oh, we don't do that. We sophisticated. We're 13. We're in the 8th grade. We ain't on that. Yep. And so sometimes you gotta still just show that it's still cool.
Yep.
Like my biggest thing, what I'm trying to show them is being smart is cool.
Yep.
You don't necessarily have to be considered a nerd, but it's okay to be smart.
Right.
And so everything I'm showing them, that's how come I'm constantly reading and I'm constantly using rich vocabulary when I'm there. Like, I'm not dumbing anything down. I'm using vocabulary, and they're like, why are you using big words? I'm like, these are not big words. These are not necessarily big words. Like, you would say this, but I'm allowed to say this. I want to hear your 8th grade vocabulary. I want to hear your 6th grade vocabulary. Oh, this word right here, that's so 3rd grade. Bring it up a notch. Let me hear a little 7th grade vocabulary. Like, that's what I'm doing. Like, let me challenge you in this way.
And you know what it likened me to? It made me think about hairstyles, right? So you think about how when that little girl, she's in 3rd grade, she's used to wearing her ponytails, right? Well, at least that's how we would, that's how we grew up.
That's how it was with us.
Things have changed. Hold up. I might be off the mark now, because nowadays you see a 3rd grader, she be having sometimes weave or down. But you think about in 3rd grade, it was maybe ponytails, a lot of beads and all of that. But then as you advance to 6th and 8th grade, what happens? Your hairstyle, choices change, right? Because you start saying, I'm older now, right? I don't want to wear the ponytails with the barrettes anymore. Now I want a silk press, or now I want some bantu knots, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever type of, or I want some locks, you know what I'm saying? So there are like different things in terms of like our kids can relate to that when it comes to style, when it comes to hair or dress. So now we can show them that guess what? You can do that when it comes to your reading, when it comes to your writing. You know what I'm saying? Advance it. You don't have to always just stay in that same way, that mode of thinking that it was that you were in when you were in second and third grade. Now you're older. So now we want to see you, we want to see more of that maturity, more of that complexity to you because you've grown, So now we want to hear that your language has grown. So I think we need to just kind of bring it to them in that level. You know what I'm saying?
I do all of that. I had a debate, a full-fledged debate
Right.
with my seventh graders because I told them that the plural of fish is fish.
Ah.
I'm talking about a
Right. It ain't
whole.
fishes that I
They
have
were
to
gonna
myself.
they were gonna do a if there was about to be a mutiny in my class.
Oh Lord.
The boy
That's
did his
right.
report. He said, and I have two goldfishes. And so once he finished, I said, not two goldfishes, goldfish. He's like, what? But I have two.
Mm.
And I
Huh?
was like, well, but it's plural. No, it's not. We know that, when you're making a plural, when it's more than one, we add S or we add
Mm.
ES. Not in this case.
Mm.
To the point where I end up pulling up the Clever Touch, putting it in. Miss Donley, that's cap. Put it in.
I love it. I
What did it?
love
I'm like, what did it say?
it.
No, you made that up. I'm steady pulling it up.
Yeah, you made that up. Come
And
on.
so I'm saying singular. So as the whole time, I'm like singular, one, plural, more than one. Do we agree? So we're going on and on. So I read so many definitions. I said, hey, I don't I don't want to do too much, but the same for sheep and deer. They're like,
Stop it. I'm done.
now you're taking it too far. This is what they said to me. Now you're taking it too far.
Uh-uh.
So I pull it up and they're like, this whole time, I've been saying deers this whole time.
Mm.
And so I said, well, it speaks to where we are. I said, sometimes, like if we're at home and we say some different things, or if we're amongst our friends, it may not be corrected, but you may be somewhere else and it may be corrected. I
Mhm.
said, that's why it's so important to know how to speak in different situations.
Got it.
And
That's
they
right.
were just like, oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So now they're like, that makes sense. And
Mm.
I said, sometimes with the way we speak, we don't recognize that it's incorrect because we speak this way all the time. I
Mhm.
said, just like we sit in here, people say we is, you are saying we is. I said, if you would say we are,
Mhm.
she is,
Mhm.
I am, it would make sense when we saw it. So then I used their test grades. I said, look at the language conventions. I said, a lot of you were in the red in language conventions. And it's because of the type of things that we say. And
Mhm.
I say, how you talk to your friends, no one's telling you to do it any different. I said, however, I just try to teach you the proper way because when you're doing something like this, you can be exposed to the correct thing.
Mhm.
And they were like, oh, okay. But when I was first telling them that about the singular and plural, that's cap, Miss Donley, that's cap. I'm like, no, I'm not just making it. I'm not just making it up. I'm like, you all think I just say something to you just to have something to say. I'll say, I want you to be better, or I at least want you to know. Now, if you know and you don't do it, that's different. However, I have to do my part in making sure that you at least know.
It's about empowerment. That's all you're doing. I mean, because we definitely, I'm just keeping it a buck, even when it comes to the English language. And I'm definitely not saying I'm equipped in terms of learning or understanding, I should say, like just the whole foundation of how the English language goes. However, we do understand that even just in speaking this language, a lot of the rules and stuff sometimes don't make sense. Just, and I've said that plenty of times, okay? And even, I'm about to get that far into it. But just in adding to what you were saying, they have to be able to understand that in different situations, they do have to be able to know how to speak and how to say certain things. And I think again, that's an empowerment tool that we are giving them, and that's definitely what we are intending to do here on this particular episode. I just really appreciate that. I love how you are bringing out these different examples and just adding that much needed component in a way that is digestible and relatable to the people who are listening to the podcast. So that's dope.
Yes, because sometimes, like I always say, it could be a little tweak that can make a big difference. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be something that's so huge. There
Mhm.
could be one thing, like, let me make sure you know this one thing.
Right.
This one thing can change a lot of what somebody does. Just in like,
Yeah.
hey, nobody ever told me that.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm like I tell them, I'm here to make you better, to help you be better. I'm not necessarily trying to change you. However,
Right.
I want you to be able to go forth and be able to do whatever you want to do. We were reading, trying to remember what grade it is. I want to say 7th.
Mhm.
The name of their what they were reading is Not Everything It Seems. Not Everything It Seems, I think. And it's talking about influencers. That's what it was talking about. It was talking about influencers, and it's talking about how, these influencers are on here. They try to make you seem like this is their life, but at the end of the day, they're trying to sell a product.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so they're talking about advertising. And so I was telling them, I said, at the end of the day, it comes down to money. I
Mm.
said, you're on here. I said, they're talking about something. I said, but it's about product placement because they're going to use something that they want you to use. They're going to have a hairstyle that they want everybody to have.
Come on.
And I was like, that's it. And so and I said, being an individual is not cool. I said, when I was growing up, being an individual was cool. You were able to have your own style.
Mm.
We had certain things, like certain parameters, like the Jordans were out, they were a big deal then. But some people were in Adidas, they weren't clown for it. Some people were in Fila, they weren't clown for it. Reebok, Nike.
Mm.
And some people were, all that cross colors was out.
Mhm.
People were colorful in the mug at
Mm.
that time. Levi's, remember Levi's wearing all that, you had it lime, green, yellow, all of that. I said all of that was out there, but you were able to be an individual.
Mm.
Somebody was able to wear a ponytail, it was okay. Some people wore braids, but it's like now they look so cookie cutter.
Mhm.
And that's what I was telling them. I said, you want something just because your friends have it, not necessarily because you like it. I
Mhm.
said, that's not how it was
Mhm.
at that time. And I said, all of these influencers that you all look at the same people and you all think that this is what's cool. And
Right.
so I was able to relate that to them again. And so then, because one of the influencers was like, I just got burnt out because I'm trying to stay fresh, I'm trying to stay relevant. Like I started to feel like I wasn't myself, things like that. And so those were our real conversations that we're able to have.
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
thought it was because the whole module is called reality check.
Okay. Oh.
So, and it's talking about different stuff. And so it enables me to have conversations, like deeper conversations with them.
Right.
And so it's been really amazing. So I'm able to get different things out of them that way.
Mm.
Because I'm like, what do you say? I'm like, so this rapper and they promote this. Oh, this person and they promote this. But if it wasn't for them, would you think it's cool?
Mhm.
Would you still think it's cool? Because I was talking about like some of the handbags. I was like, first of all, I don't carry a purse. And I was like, but some of these purses that are worth all of these thousands, I'm not a fan of.
Mhm.
And so I was talking about specific things. I said, so my goal is to always be an individual because I need to be true to me. And I was like, and if you do the same, you wouldn't be able to come in here and people bring you to tears because you don't have a certain shoe. You won't be able to do that. And so just things like that I've been able to do and relate right back to the content, bring it right back to the content, but say, hey, you can do this. This is your opinion. So if you say this, you're allowed to have your opinion, but guess what? You have to have evidence to support it.
Support it.
And so, and again, bringing it to a standard, but they don't even realize that that's what I'm doing. So, we have to get it however we can. So that's why these activities that we are doing have been so fun. And even I know our next one is going to be on cause and effect.
Yes.
And so we were reading, again, I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade this year. So we were already talking about the organizational pattern. I want to say it was in the 8th grade so far, where it was key ideas and details that they were talking about, and then cause and effect, the organizational pattern. And the students were like, what is that? I mean, what is all of this they asking us about? And so that's what I'm saying. It's the little things like that, because once they get it, they'll be like, oh, I understand. So there's a heading here, and then they're telling us about it. Oh, I see they're saying a problem, then they're telling us how to fix it. But until we do something like this, it's just like, this is stupid, because anything they don't understand is stupid. So that's why I enjoy coming on here to kind of just impart knowledge and give different examples, because these are real life situations.
Yes.
These are real life situations. And it's not just with the students that I teach. These are like some of just families that I encounter, some of my own family members. Yeah. Sometimes I'll say something, they like, what you mean? Yep. I'm like, because I would take for granted, because it's something that my mom or my dad or my uncle or my aunt would have said to me, and I would have understood it. Right. But then again, these are different times.
Yeah. Yes, we're living in times like you said, and then that's the whole point again of doing these types of episodes. We are about empowerment, y'all. We are about trying to bring these different concepts and ways to have our kid, not just even our kids, like we talked about, even as us as adults, just taking it up a notch. And also, you think about, just like with this activity that we just did, when you mentioned earlier in the conversation about being able to take a book like this and doing a project like this with your family, having, just getting the construction paper, getting the inside of, using the inside box of an old potato chip box, or whatever the case, whatever it is that you want to do, you can actually do this and turn this into a fun project. I remember, like you had saw before, when we did dioramas, me and my kids, we actually did that together it was New Year's Eve. And it was like, just having just fun with these different things for our kids as well as for us as adults. And we're learning. We are actually increasing our knowledge. We're actually having engaging conversations. Just a lot of different things are going on, a lot of dialogue. I mean, it's just super dope. I love it. And that's why we're doing this. I'm going to stop right there, because I'm like, how you just keep going, like, I'm going to stop right there, because
what they say, full stop.
Full stop. Okay. Full stop. All right, y'all. So thank you once again, Miss Ebony Donley. And yes, you will be back to show us another cool project on cause and effect. Right?
I'll be back. Yes. Cause and effect.
Yes.
Using the skin I'm in.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So everybody, thank you all again for listening to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am, again, your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And again, I hope that you all enjoyed this content, and most importantly, that you learned from it as well. All right. So next time we will see you all, and we'll be talking about cause and effect. And remember to please keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, reading is freedom. Peace. Super, super happy that we were able to present this dope episode to you guys about figurative language. I just love stuff like this, right? I get so giddy and talking about ways in which we can empower our community when it comes to literacy. And so I hope that you all gain insight and got some great ideas into ways you can incorporate things like figurative language into whether you are teaching your children at home or if you're an educator. Okay? So let me do a little housekeeping. Again, if you're looking for a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor, please go to my website, abclearntutoring.com. I'm also a certified dyslexia tutor, all right? Orton Gillingham certified, okay? So please make sure that you go to abclearntutoring.com. Do not wait until it's getting close to the end of the year, okay? And check out our website for our nonprofit organization, ABC Read. Go to abcread.org so you can see the work that we've been doing as well. You want to go grab your merch? Yes, you do. Go to readingisfreedom.store. Y'all see that mug right there on the shelf? That's right. That's what I want to see y'all doing. Sipping and reading. And yes, sipping in your Reading is Freedom mug, okay? Or rocking your Read shirt, okay? Readingisfreedom.store, y'all. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you share, and hit the notification bell. Reading is freedom, okay? And of course, you're going to see or listen to, rather, this podcast on all the podcast platforms, y'all. All right? And then I just want to share with you guys the book that I've been reading. Again, I'm still reading that book, Ebony and Ivy. Okay, so that book, yes, it's, of course, y'all know how I love my nonfiction and love learning about Black history, okay? So that book right there, giving the history of these universities and these Ivy League schools and how they were built on the backs of Native Americans as well as our enslaved African ancestors, crazy, all right? That book is a great one, all right? And I just want to leave you guys with the quote, and the quote is going to be from our dear brother, Malcolm X, all right? I could spend the rest of my life reading, just satisfying my curiosity. So there you have it right there, you guys. I want to make sure that you all are satisfying your curiosity every day, at least for 30 minutes a day with reading, okay? My adults out there, make sure that you are modeling reading for your babies, okay? So with that being said, you all take care. Thank you all again for listening to another episode of Real Reading Talk. I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And remember, reading is freedom. Peace.